Is the child in your womb my son or my brother? I was a beggar saved by Prince Alexander, only to be pawned off as his father's empress to secure his throne. Caught between a cold tyrant who claims me in the shadows and a silent general guarding a decade-old secret, I am a prisoner of red silk and lethal lies. In a court of poison and betrayal, I must choose: remain a captive mother, or burn the empire to be free. I stared at my dazed reflection in the mirror. I was dressed in a crimson wedding gown, adorned with priceless jewels. My name is Charlotte Feng. I'm an orphan. Until I was 6, I lived as a beggar. Then, by a stroke of luck, I was noticed by the crown prince, Alexander Wrong, and brought into the palace. He was so gentle with me. In truth, Crown Prince Alexander was not a gentle man. He was cold and stern, and he rarely smiled. His tenderness was a privilege reserved for me alone. I even began to believe I was his one exception, his only love. But I never imagined what he would say to me half a month ago on the day of my coming-of-age ceremony. "Charlotte," he said, "be the Empress. Help me." When Alexander said this, his face was etched with an exhaustion he couldn't hide. My heart felt as if it were being crushed by a heavy stone. I couldn't speak for a long time. I thought he was my salvation. It turns out I was just a pawn to help him secure the throne. The late Empress was Alexander's birth mother and the mistress I had always served. She was a gentle, dignified woman who never fought for favor. After she passed away from illness 2 years ago, Alexander brought me to live with him in the Eastern Palace. With the Empress's position vacant, the court was embroiled in debate. I suppose that's why a powerless woman like me was chosen for the throne. I wouldn't be a threat to anyone. The Emperor was in high spirits today. He took my hand and laughed heartily. "The Empress must be tired. It has been a long day for you." "Thank you, Your Majesty. I am fine." I forced a smile, but my gaze drifted involuntarily to Alexander. He looked as dashing and spirited as ever. Seeing me look his way, Alexander gave a faint smile. "I greet you, Mother Empress." Hearing him speak the title so casually sent a bitter pang through my heart. The Emperor chimed in with a laugh. "Yes, Charlotte used to serve in the late Empress's palace. I saw her a few times back then. She is clever and kind, which I find very pleasing. It's no wonder the third prince brought her to his residence after the late Empress passed away." I remained silent, my face fixed in a gentle, practiced smile. Alexander paused for a moment before speaking. "Father, Mother Empress, you've both had a long day. Now that the ceremony is over, you should return to your chambers and rest." A hint of command underscored his tone. The Emperor chuckled twice more, then took my hand and led me away. On the way to Virtue Palace with the Emperor, my heart was filled with unease, not the joy a new Empress should feel. The Emperor's 3 sons were all born late in his life, when he was nearly 50. Alexander is 2 years older than me, which means the Emperor is old enough to be my grandfather. After we returned to the palace, I kept my head down, my fingers twisting a red silk handkerchief. I could feel the Emperor's gaze on me, carrying the oppressive weight of a man long accustomed to power. I don't know how much time passed before I heard a soft snore from beside me. I looked up to find the Emperor sprawled out on the bed, fast asleep. "What's that look for, Mother Empress? Disappointed that your groom has fallen asleep on your wedding night?" Alexander stepped out from the shadows. The sight of him startled a gasp from me. "What are you doing here? Get out, quickly." But Alexander paid me no mind. He glanced at the soundly sleeping Emperor on the bed, then fixed his gaze on me as he approached, step by step. I finally realized something was wrong. The fact that he dared to enter so brazenly, and that the Emperor was sleeping so soundly. He must have done something. Is the Mother Empress afraid? Alexander was close now. He reached out, pinning me against the bedpost. His handsome, cold face loomed near, his warm breath tickling my ear. The air crackled with an undeniable intimacy. My heart began to pound uncontrollably. At the same time, endless humiliation rose from the depths of my soul. I don't know where the strength came from, but I shoved Alexander away. "Of course I'm afraid. I am the Empress now, your father's woman. You're the one who put me in this position." Alexander's gaze was dark. "I told you, it's only temporary. As soon as—" "Don't say it." I cut him off. I quickly composed myself and looked at him steadily. "I will do what I promised you, but I ask that you not do this on my wedding night. Please, don't humiliate me like this. An empress entangled with the crown prince on her wedding night, the humiliation was more than enough. Alexander glanced at the snoring emperor on the large bed and gave a cold smile. Wedding night? Do you think father can satisfy you? As he spoke, he pulled me straight to the window. His broad palm felt devoid of warmth as he reached out and tore my wedding robes. A chill spread across my chest as he pressed his body against me. I knew Alexander's personality. He played the part of an obedient son, but his ambition was boundless. When he wanted someone or something, there was no room for negotiation. As Alexander's lips descended toward my face, my eyes reddened. I held on to my last shred of sanity and turned my head away. Don't, at least not here. At that moment, Alexander's voice became unusually gentle. Don't be afraid, Mother Empress. No one will disturb us. I don't know how much time passed. A gentle night breeze blew in from the window, and I shivered, my senses clearing slightly. Alexander was gone. Before he left, he only said, in half a month, it will be the anniversary of the late Empress's death. For the past 2 years, Father has never held a grand memorial. This year, I want to hold a ceremony at Spirit Temple. I'll leave this matter to you, Mother Empress. A memorial for the late Empress would naturally require the Emperor's presence, and I was now the most suitable person to propose it. 2 days later, the Emperor joined me for dinner. I hesitated for a moment before broaching the subject Alexander had tasked me with. In a little over 10 days, it will be the anniversary of the late Empress's death. Does Your Majesty have any plans? The Emperor continued eating at a leisurely pace, replying without even looking up. It's thoughtful of you to remember. I smiled faintly, trying to appear as natural as possible. I hear there has been an insect plague in the south. You must be exhausted from dealing with these matters. Perhaps you could take the opportunity of the late Empress's anniversary to hold a memorial at Spirit Temple? It would also be a chance to relax. The Emperor considered it for a moment, then smiled. Very well, I'll entrust this matter to the Empress. Since you're new to managing the palace, if there's anything you don't understand, you can ask Consort Serena. Rest assured, Your Majesty, I will handle it properly. I replied softly. The Emperor's meal with me was merely a formality. He left without lingering for another moment. Consort Serena was the daughter of the current Prime Minister. She was not much older than me and was said to have entered the palace at 14 and been greatly favored. I thought that if the situation in court weren't so complicated, she, not I, might have become Empress. After dinner, I went to Consort Serena's palace, bringing some pastries with me. Her palace was the closest to the Emperor's imperial study. I had expected Consort Serena to be difficult. After all, I was just a palace maid who had suddenly snatched the Empress's title that she had been poised to win. To my surprise, she was very friendly when she saw me. As a result, a visit I had planned to last for only the time it takes an incense stick to burn ended with me leaving late into the night. The maidservant attending me asked, Empress, you and Consort Serena seem to get along so well. In all the days I've served you, I've never seen you so close with anyone. I just smiled faintly and said nothing. Consort Serena and I spoke alone in her chamber. No one knew what we talked about. Consort Serena treated me like a sister she could confide in, telling me many of her stories. For example, how she and Alexander were childhood sweethearts. So it seems I wasn't the only pawn Alexander had in the palace. On the day of the memorial, the Emperor led a large imperial procession to Spirit Temple. When the Emperor travels, security is the top priority. Coincidentally, the Prime Minister's eldest son, Gabriel Pei, who had been stationed with his troops at the borderlands, had just returned. This time, he was in charge of leading a team of guards to escort the procession. I was supposed to ride in the same carriage as the Emperor, but he specifically requested Consort Serena to attend to him, which I was happy to allow. When I boarded my carriage, I was surprised to find another young woman already inside. Which noble family are you from? Why are you here? The woman was dressed in riding attire, looking valiant and spirited. She seemed to be about my age, and her clear eyes were filled with unconcealed curiosity as she looked at me. Are you the Empress? I've heard about you. You're even more beautiful in person than I imagined. Perhaps it was the frank and innocent expression on her face, but I couldn't help but smile. My name is Lillian Pai. I'm the Prime Minister's third daughter. I came with my older sister. The young woman explained readily, a trace of embarrassment on her face. My older brother won't let me ride. He said that now that we're back in the capital, a young lady should be more demure, so I'm stuck cooped up in here. So you're the Prime Minister's daughter? You know how to ride? I looked at her bright and lively face and felt a pang of envy. Of course, Lillian said, lifting her head proudly. I've lived with my older brother in the borderlands since I was 12. It's so free and unrestrained there. You can ride horses and drink wine. It's much more fun than the capital, where everything is bound by etiquette. As she spoke, Lillian looked outside, then excitedly tugged on my sleeve, pointing to a man in military attire on a magnificent horse beside us. Empress, look, that's my older brother. Isn't he handsome? I want to go ride too. With that, she shouted out the window. Brother. Gabriel Pay glanced back, a look of helplessness on his face. I was taken aback. As handsome as Alexander was, I never expected that Gabriel Pay, a general who had been stationed at the border for years, would be so stunningly handsome. His features were sharp, as if carved from stone, his chiseled face exceptionally good-looking. Gabriel looked at Lillian with affection. I told you to be quiet. Then his gaze shifted to me. Empress, if Lillian has said anything impolite, I hope you will forgive her. Looking out at the wide-open world beyond the carriage, I wished I could lean out the window like Lillian, to laugh and talk without a care. But in the end, I just sat there primly and offered a faint smile. The procession continued on, soon arriving at Spirit Temple. I had no time to rest before I was thrown into the memorial ceremony for the late Empress. Spirit Temple was very popular, with a constant stream of worshippers. Alexander pulled me aside to the back of the mountain. Dispensing with any preamble, he asked directly, "You've met Lillian Pay, haven't you?" I was startled, not quite understanding what he meant. Alexander gave me a cryptic look. She is the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister. Her father holds a high position in court, and her elder brother has a foothold in the military. She is the most suitable candidate for Crown Princess. I knew that nothing was possible between Alexander and me, but I didn't expect this tiny sliver of hope to be shattered so brutally. Is the Mother Empress jealous? Alexander watched me with a smile, his thoughts impossible to guess. I composed myself and looked away from him. If you want to marry a crown princess, ask the emperor yourself. Why do you need me to arrange it? You know that if I propose it, father will assume I have ulterior motives. But if you, my mother empress, arrange it, the nature of the request changes. I'll mention it to the emperor when we get back. After saying this, I turned to leave. Our statuses were now worlds apart. Nothing was possible. But the thought of him holding another woman's hand made my heart ache. Unexpectedly, Alexander grabbed my arm. He pressed his body close, trapping me against the wall. The Mother Empress is trying to leave so soon. His tone was almost intimate, and it flustered me. Let me go. Why are you angry? Tell me, Alexander's voice was softer than I had ever heard it. I don't know where the strength came from, but I pushed him away and fled as if escaping a catastrophe. Why are the Empress's eyes red? The Emperor asked when I returned to the ceremony. I quickly made an excuse. Just as I was speaking, Alexander also walked in, acting as if nothing had happened. The Emperor glanced outside at the bright sunshine. He seemed doubtful but didn't press the matter. Suddenly, someone outside shouted, "Assassins!" The scene descended into chaos. I saw a group of men in black charge in, their murderous gazes locked on the Emperor. The assassins' blades were real, and their intent was deadly. They were numerous, and half of the guards protecting the Emperor and me fell in moments. The scene was utter chaos. In the confusion, the Emperor and I were separated. My eyes desperately searched for that familiar figure, only to see Alexander fighting back-to-back with Lillian Pai. The two of them fought with such perfect coordination they looked like a match made in heaven. "Empress, are you all right?" A hand suddenly appeared in front of me. I looked up and saw it was Gabriel Pay, whom I had just met. "Come with me. I'll take you somewhere safe." I then realized the Emperor had already been escorted away. I glanced back toward Alexander one last time. Alexander was a skilled martial artist. He didn't need my concern. Besides, it was obvious he didn't care about my safety at all. Gabriel Pei escorted me back to the meditation room where I was temporarily staying. I was still reeling. "Thank you." Gabriel just smiled faintly. "You're welcome, Empress. It is my duty. Please rest here." Seeing that Gabriel was about to leave, I remembered something and quickly stopped him. "Does the Empress have any other orders?" I hesitated, but then I said it. "I spent some time with your sister in the carriage today. I find Lillian to be quite wonderful. If she were to be named Crown Princess, would you, General Pei, give your blessing?" He seemed surprised that I would say this. He paused for a moment before answering. "Lillian is impulsive and has a hot temper. If the Empress is looking for a wife for the Crown Prince, I believe daughters from other noble families would be more suitable." It was a clear refusal. Since he put it that way, I couldn't press the issue. But then I thought of what Alexander had told me. "When do you leave the capital, General Pei?" He didn't expect my topic to shift so quickly. After a moment, he seemed to guess my intention. "In a few days," I muttered to myself, then steeled my resolve and pressed on. "The Pei family is the Prime Minister's house, and the Crown Prince is a man of singular quality. No one is more suitable to be the Crown Princess than your sister." Gabriel suddenly laughed. "Empress, just how many matches have you made?" I took a step back, my back pressing against the door. He was everything I'd expect of a man raised on the border, trained in martial arts since childhood. Even as he smiled, his very presence was an intimidating weight. Suddenly, Gabriel placed a hand on the door, pinning me in the space between his body and the wood. The posture was jarringly intimate, and the sheer force of his presence left me flustered and helpless. Just then, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed from outside, heading straight for my meditation room. I glanced at Gabriel Pei, who took the hint and stepped back. I opened the door, only to run right into Alexander Wrong as he was about to push it open himself. Worry was written all over his face. The moment he saw me, his eyes scanned me from head to toe. "Are you all right? I've been looking everywhere for you." "I'm fine." I forced myself not to look at Alexander, lest I let myself hope. My words came out cold and emotionless. Seeing that I was indeed unharmed, Alexander finally seemed to relax, letting out a sigh of relief before looking past me to Gabriel. "General Pei, you're here too? Your sister is looking for you." Gabriel bid us farewell and left. After Gabriel left, Alexander dismissed his own guards as well. Not wanting to be alone with him, I tried to leave, but he grabbed my arm and shut the door. "Let go of me." At this, Alexander actually smiled. "It seems you really are fine. You still have the strength to yell at me. However, Father is resting 2 doors down. If you don't want him to investigate the noise, Mother, you'd best keep your voice down." I fell silent. That man Alexander was truly capable of anything. For a rare moment, Alexander's gaze softened as he looked at me. "The assassins from earlier, they were my men. They would never have harmed you. That's why I wasn't worried about leaving you on your own." "Was that so?" I scoffed. I turned my head away. My eyes began to sting, but I fought back the tears and kept my composure. A guard knocked on the door. "Crown Prince, the Emperor is looking for you." I could feel Alexander's eyes linger on me for a long moment. "I didn't tell you about this beforehand, and I scared you. Get some rest. Get some rest. I'll explain everything when we get back." With that, Alexander turned and left. My strength finally gave out, and I slid down the pillar to the floor. He said he had arranged the assassination attempt. For what purpose? To use the attack as a chance to fight alongside Lillian, to confirm their feelings for one another? This was the memorial ceremony for his own mother, the late Empress. If he could stage something like this on such a sacred occasion, what did I truly mean to him? Forget it. I should have seen the truth long ago. In his old age, the Emperor had grown especially concerned with his own safety. After a short rest, he lost all interest in the ceremony and dispatched an extra contingent of guards to escort us back to the palace. Of course, as the late Empress's only son, Alexander had to stay behind to manage the aftermath. What I didn't expect was that Lillian didn't leave with us either. She remained at the Spirit Temple, helping Alexander handle the rest of the memorial ceremony. I figured they were using the chance to grow closer. "The Empress seems a little down. Are you still shaken from the attack?" I was traveling alone in my carriage, staring blankly at the scenery, when Gabriel Pei rode his horse up beside my window. Yes, that's right, I didn't know what to say, so I just agreed. As if by magic, Gabriel produced a stick of candied hawthorns and held it out to me. I bought this when we passed through the market. Would you like some? Candied hawthorns? A spark of excitement lit my eyes. Even when I was a maid in the Eastern Palace, I'd never had such a common street treat. But the light in my eyes vanished as quickly as it had appeared. I knew someone in my position shouldn't long for the world outside. Thank you for the thought, General Pei. But I don't care for sweets. I sat back in the carriage and lowered the curtain. The very next day, back at the palace, I approached the Emperor about selecting a crown princess. The Emperor looked at me with a half-smile. The Empress certainly shows her Eastern Palace origins. For you to already be considering the crown prince's marriage, your bond with him is deep indeed. Do you have a candidate in mind? The Emperor's casual words held a hidden meaning. My heart skipped a beat, but I managed to smile. The crown prince is no longer a boy, and you are burdened with countless state affairs. Since he calls me mother, it is only natural that I worry about such things for him. During yesterday's attack at the Spirit Temple, I noticed the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Pei's daughter have quite a rapport. They seem very well matched. With your permission, Your Majesty, perhaps we could prepare a decree of betrothal? I thought I would have to argue my case further, but to my surprise, the Emperor agreed readily. You are wise and thoughtful, Empress. Since you already have a suitable candidate in mind, I will issue the marriage decree tomorrow. Just like that, with the Emperor's word, the matter was settled. I felt a sense of relief, yet at the same time, it was as if a heavy stone was pressing on my heart. The Crown Prince's wedding day was set for the 2nd of next month, just 2 weeks away. I heard they were in love, so the preparations moved forward smoothly. The Emperor put me in charge of organizing the entire affair. I couldn't refuse, so I threw myself into the work, planning a grand and festive celebration. On the wedding day, the palace was filled with guests, alive with a joyous atmosphere. At the banquet, the Emperor and I sat at the head table. Alexander was dressed in crimson wedding robes, and beside him, Lillian Pai had exchanged her usual valiant attire for a red wedding gown. Standing together, they looked like a perfect match. Watching Alexander lead Lillian toward us, I couldn't describe the feeling in my heart. Your hands are a bit cold, Empress, the Emperor said, noticing my pale face and placing his hand over mine. I haven't been feeling well recently. I mumbled, lowering my head slightly. Alexander and Lillian walked over just then. Where are you feeling unwell, Mother? Hearing that familiar voice, my heart trembled. I looked up instinctively, and, though it may have been my imagination, I thought I saw a flicker of concern in Alexander's eyes. His crimson robes were blinding. The Emperor spoke up. You organized this entire wedding. It must have taken a great deal of effort. Perhaps you're just tired. If you're truly unwell, Empress, you may go back and rest. Hearing this was like being granted a pardon. I shot to my feet, but my movement was so abrupt that I knocked over a cup, spilling wine all over myself. All eyes turned to me. Mortified, I could only manage a smile that felt more like a grimace. I'm a bit dizzy. Please excuse my lack of etiquette. I practically fled the wedding banquet. As soon as I was outside, I dismissed my ladies-in-waiting. I wanted to be alone, to let the wind clear my head. Without realizing it, I had wandered into the imperial garden. Usually bustling with people, it was now deserted, as everyone was at the banquet. The year was drawing to a close, and the winter sweet was in full bloom. The night wind was bone-chillingly cold. As a gust blew past, I couldn't help but shiver. Suddenly, I felt a warmth spread over me as a cloak was draped over my shoulders, bringing with it a faint, fresh scent. My heart skipped a beat. I spun around to see a handsome face, cool yet gentle. You look a little disappointed, Empress. Gabriel Pei gazed at me with a wry smile, as if he could see right through me. I didn't like the feeling of being so transparent, and my expression hardened. Everyone is at the wedding banquet. As the bride's brother, what are you doing here? As I spoke, I started to remove the cloak from my shoulders. Gabriel placed a hand on my shoulder, stopping me. The wind is strong tonight. It's no time for bravery, Empress. That's none of your business. I didn't know where the flash of temper came from, but blood rushed to my head. I yanked the cloak off, threw it back at him, and turned to leave. I had only taken a few steps when the cold wind hit me again. The next moment, before I could react, Gabriel grabbed my wrist and carefully draped the cloak over my shoulders once more. "Don't be stubborn." His voice was low and pleasant. For some reason, I forgot to refuse. After Gabriel left, I ran all the way back to my chambers. Before I could even process what was happening, a powerful force shoved me against the wall, followed by a man's stormy, passionate kiss. I struggled desperately. I didn't need to see his face. His familiar scent was enough to confirm his identity. The sight of his crimson wedding robes stung my eyes. My resistance only seemed to fuel him, and his kiss grew more possessive. He ripped the cloak from my shoulders and threw it to the ground. A wave of utter humiliation washed over me. Unable to break free, I stopped struggling as tears began to stream down my face. "You're crying?" My tears seemed to register, and Alexander stopped, pulling back to stare at me, his face terrifyingly dark. A mix of hurt and bewilderment washed over me, and my tears flowed uncontrollably. "Why can't I cry? Alexander, how could you do this to me on your wedding night? What do you take me for? I am your mother." Alexander's expression was complex, his demeanor softening. I seized the opportunity and pushed him away. "Charlotte, are you jealous?" I turned my back to him, wiping away my tears. "Don't you forget who we are to each other." I was reminding him, but I was also reminding myself. Alexander grabbed my wrist, pinning me against a pillar and forcing me to look at him. "If you're jealous, just tell me. I can explain. Charlotte, you know you're the only one I truly care for." I took a deep breath and laughed coldly. "Care for me? You care for me, so you made me Empress, your mother? You care for me, so you marry another woman and expect me to smile and bless you? Alexander, I don't understand you. Since I'm just a pawn you're using, and I've already agreed to help you achieve your goals, why do you insist on trying to bind me with emotion?" Perhaps my gaze was too sharp. He had never seen me like this before. A look of struggle crossed Alexander's face. In the end, he could only look at me helplessly. "Marrying Lillian was a necessity. I am just one step away from controlling the court. With her, my path will be cleared." I had no patience to listen anymore. Alexander was truly laughable. "No, I'm the one who's ridiculous. You made your choice between power and me long ago, yet I was still foolish enough to hold out hope. Alexander, just go. On your wedding night, you should be with your crown princess." "Charlotte?" Before Alexander could speak, I gave a weary smile, which then turned into a sneer. "Or you could take me away from here right now. Just the two of us." I felt the hands on my shoulders gradually lose their strength. The man before me fell silent. Just as I thought. The answer I expected. After that night, I fell gravely ill. I spent my days in a daze, with no energy at all. The emperor never visited my quarters anyway. My position as empress was purely for show, which was just as I wished. I lay in my palace for many days, enjoying the quiet solitude. I felt perpetually listless and weak, so when a pleasant day finally arrived, I decided to take a walk in the imperial garden. After being cooped up for so long, the gentle breeze was a welcome comfort. "So this is where Mother has gone to admire the flowers. It's a good thing I came through the imperial garden, or I would have missed you." I froze at the sound of the familiar voice. I turned to see Lillian Pei walking toward me. This time, she looked like a completely different person. The high ponytail she always favored was now styled into a proper bun. She wore a pale green dress that gave her a gentle aura, and even the bold, unrestrained smile on her face had been tamed. In just over a month, she had changed so drastically. "Crown Princess?" I opened my mouth, unsure how to face her. Lillian approached and curtsied. "I heard you have been ill, Mother. Are you feeling better?" "Much better." Looking at Lillian, I sensed she had something on her mind, but was hesitating about how to begin. She wasn't one to hide her feelings well. I dismissed my ladies in waiting. "You were gravely ill, Mother. I should have come sooner, but so much has happened recently," Lillian began, a cloud of worry on her brow. "You're new to the Eastern Palace. It's natural that you have many things to attend to," I said, trying to comfort her. It wasn't hard to see that Lillian's feelings for Alexander were genuine. Otherwise, such a lively and cheerful girl would never have been willing to change herself so completely. Lillian fell silent for a moment. then stopped walking and looked at me with a steady gaze. Don't you know? The royal court is in chaos. Everyone is afraid. After our marriage, the prince became like a different person, seizing power for himself. There are rumors that the Sky Empire is about to have a new master. I was stunned. How can that be? Lillian gave a bitter smile. All the court officials who disagreed with the crown prince have been eliminated, one by one. My older brother opposes his tyranny and has been reluctant to hand over his military authority. I'm caught in the middle, and it's exhausting. I remained silent as Lillian continued. The prince doesn't need to be in such a hurry to consolidate power. He's the crown prince. The Sky Empire will be his sooner or later. His current tyranny only makes people obey him out of fear, not loyalty. He is a man of great wisdom. How could he not understand this? As she spoke, Lillian's eyes never left my face. Her gaze was probing, even testing. I knew what she was trying to say. Her stare made me feel incredibly exposed. I have only been in the Eastern Palace for a little over a month, but I see traces of another woman everywhere. Even my husband calls out another woman's name in his sleep. I did not come here today to stake a claim. I have no other way to make him stop. The prince has become obsessed with getting back to your side. Now, you're the only one who can talk sense into him. I staggered back 2 steps, grabbing the railing to steady myself. Having said her piece, Lillian did not stay long, but I remained standing in the wind, lost in a daze. My health had been poor lately, and I'd felt lethargic, so I had been hiding in my palace, never stepping out. I had no idea that such earth-shattering changes were happening outside. Alexander shouldn't have been in such a rush for power. Why the sudden urgency? I didn't dare to think too deeply about it. Empress, Empress. A voice called out from the distance, pulling me back from my thoughts. It was the eunuch who served the emperor. Empress, the emperor is gravely ill. He summons you to his side. I followed the eunuch to the emperor's residence. To my surprise, the entire hall was sealed off and dimly lit. As soon as I entered, the eunuch closed the main doors behind me. The gloomy, quiet atmosphere made me deeply uncomfortable. You've come. Before I could react, I heard the emperor's deep voice from nearby. He was sitting upright at his desk, showing no signs of illness at all. Your Majesty, I heard you were ill? I asked cautiously. The emperor didn't answer directly, but instead beckoned to me. Come, have some tea with me. With a mix of apprehension and confusion, I walked over. Did you know? Of my 3 sons, the crown prince is the one I'm most disappointed in. The emperor's sudden remark caught me off guard. I said nothing, focusing only on pouring his tea. In terms of ability, he is the most suitable successor. He has both the patience to endure and the courage for bold action. But he has a weakness, one that is great enough to threaten his hold on the throne. I forced a smile. Your Majesty, why are you suddenly speaking of such things? Did you really think I didn't know about your relationship with the crown prince? The emperor took a sip of tea and said with a faint smile, I'm even fully aware of the poison consort Serena has been putting in my tea every day. The emperor's words sent a tremor through my heart, and I nearly dropped the teacup. I have 3 sons. From a young age, I deliberately pitted them against one another, testing them. Only the crown prince possessed the qualities needed for the throne. But I never expected he would feel so strongly for you, so strongly that he would resort to these measures to force my abdication. Watching the emperor drink the tea in his cup, I grew more and more uneasy. He glanced at me. I have done many ruthless things in my life. I have nothing to say about the fate I now face. However, everything I did was for the sake of the Sky Empire, and I will not allow anyone to threaten this nation now. His face grew more and more distorted. A sense of foreboding rose in my heart, and I couldn't help but stand up and take a few steps back. Now, my time is up, but the foundation of our Sky Empire, built over a century, cannot be destroyed by him. The Crown Prince's recent tyranny has already caused widespread resentment among the court officials. As the Emperor spoke, rhythmic, orderly footsteps rang out from outside, rushing toward us. A beautiful woman can be a harbinger of disaster. If you truly have feelings for the Crown Prince, then you should do what is necessary for his sake. The words were barely out of her mouth when the doors to the main hall were kicked open. Alexander Rom strode in, clad in full military attire, his handsome face alight with confidence. "What are father and mother discussing?" As he spoke, Alexander strode toward me, his tall frame immediately shielding me behind him. Just then, the emperor coughed, spraying a mouthful of blood. No longer able to maintain his imperial composure, he collapsed onto the table. "The crown prince is quick to the rescue, isn't he?" Alexander shot the emperor a cold glance before his eyes fell on the tea on the table. He turned back to me, carefully checking to see if I was all right. "That tea, did you drink any?" Still shaken, I subconsciously shook my head. "Good." Alexander seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. "Alex," the emperor began, "I have always believed you were the most fit to be emperor, but I never thought you would do something like this for a woman." "You want the throne? I can give it to you. But this woman, you cannot keep her." Alexander let out a cold laugh. "My dear father, what right do you have to command me now?" The emperor's face was ashen. Spurred on by anger, he coughed up another spray of blood. He struggled to lift a finger and point at me, wanting to say something, but his strength failed him. In the end, with one last, meaningful look, he closed his eyes. I knew the emperor's death by poison was no one's doing but his own. I had been so close, just a little closer, and I would have drunk that tea as well. I wouldn't be standing here now. I still hadn't recovered from the shock. My body trembled so violently I could barely stay on my feet. Alexander pulled me into his arms. "Don't be afraid, I'm here. You'll be fine. It's all over. I will marry you." I don't know where I found the strength, but I shoved Alexander away and erupted into a wild, manic laugh. "Why would anything happen to me? I'm the one who poisoned the emperor. Do you think I'd be foolish enough to drink a poison I prepared myself?" "Charlotte." Alexander's face blanched. He snapped at me, trying to shut me up. The hall was filled not only with the men Alexander had brought, but also with the many guards and officials who had rushed over at the commotion. I knew that if even one person spread the truth about the emperor's death, I would become an enemy of the empire. The crown prince arrived so quickly. I haven't even had time to get away, but now that it's come to this, I will accept any punishment you wish to mete out. Shut your mouth. My laughter grew more frenzied, until tears streamed from my eyes. The sound echoed through the entire palace. Could it be that the crown prince can't bear to punish me? A murmur rippled through the crowd. "Your Highness, this venomous woman cannot be allowed to live. Poisoning the emperor is a capital crime. Please, Your Highness, pass sentence and grant this venomous woman death." A wave of desolation washed over me. My vision blurred, and I lost consciousness. As I fainted, I thought I saw Gabriel Pei rushing in through the doorway. When I awoke again, it was night. Candles flickered in the room, and beside me, Alexander lay fully clothed. I was stunned for a moment, then sat up. My movement startled Alexander awake. When he saw I was conscious, his face lit up with joy. "You're awake? Are you hungry? I'll have the kitchen send up some of your favorite dishes." I said nothing, reaching out to push him away slightly, putting some distance between us. He had actually brought me back to Virtue Palace. I was now a woman accused of regicide. Alexander's face was still bright with happiness. He placed a hand on my stomach. "Be careful of the child." I was aghast. "What are you talking about?" "Charlotte, you really are clueless. You're pregnant, and you didn't even know." Alexander's expression softened. "Father has passed away, and the nation cannot be without a ruler for a single day. My enthronement ceremony will be in a few days. Tomorrow, I will announce the deposition of the crown princess and make you my empress." Pregnant. My face turned deathly pale. I never would have imagined that just as I was seeking death, I would learn I was pregnant. Seeing Alexander's unconcealed joy, my heart felt like it was encased in ice. "Alexander, you hold all the power now. You can ascend the throne as you wished. Why can't you just let me go?" Looking at the man before me, his face full of tender affection, I felt no warmth at all. Instead, I was terrified. My words angered Alexander. He had never been a man of good temper. He only ever tempered it in my presence. "Your current condition doesn't allow for emotional turmoil. Get some rest." With that, he stood up and left. For the next few days, I was under house arrest in Virtue Palace, unable to go anywhere. Alexander knew my temperament. Before, I might have done something drastic, but now I was pregnant. My only news of the outside world came from the palace maids, and only what Alexander permitted me to hear. For instance, that he had successfully ascended the throne. The Empress doesn't seem to be in a very good mood. Consort Serena appeared behind me, interrupting my daze. I gave her a listless glance. Don't call me Empress. The former emperor is dead. Even so, you are still living in Virtue Palace. Consort Serena continued. These past few days, the Ministry of Rights has been preparing for the new Empress's installation. When the officials learned the emperor plans to make you Empress, not a single one of them supported it. I don't want to be the Empress. Once he makes a decision, no one can stop him. Consort Serena looked at me and suddenly laughed at herself. But from what I know of him, no one can truly enter his heart. You will be no exception. You don't know, do you? He used you to threaten General Pai, forcing him to hand over the command seal for the 200,000 soldiers at the borderlands. What did you say? The day the former emperor died, General Pai recklessly rushed in with his men. Seeing you faint, he lost his composure, revealing his weakness. Alexander used that to make him surrender his military power in exchange for your freedom. Gabriel agreed. A sharp pain lanced through my heart, as if it were being devoured by 1,000 ants. He agreed, Consort Serena said calmly. You should go, I said, closing my eyes in agony. I didn't want to speak with her anymore. This palace was filled with Alexander's spies. Besides, I already had a plan. Your Majesty, would you like to have your meal now? It was dinner time, and a palace maid asked considerately. No, I'd like to rest early today. You may all leave. I dismissed the attending maids and leaned against the windowsill alone, gazing at the moon high in the sky. So many memories flooded my mind. Alexander probably did have some genuine feelings for me, but his sincerity was an illusion, something I couldn't grasp, nor did I want to. These days, I often dreamed. I dreamed that I had never entered the palace with Alexander all those years ago. Life outside the palace was hard, but it was free. This imperial palace was a giant cage, trapping me inside until I could barely breathe. I was so lost in thought that I didn't notice someone approaching. By the time I realized, Gabriel Pai was already in front of me. He was cloaked in black, a sword in his hand. Come with me, I'll get you out of here. Gabriel reached his hand out to me, his gaze firm and urgent. It was the first time I had ever seen such loving emotion in his eyes. I gave a self-mocking laugh. Go? Go where? General Pai, don't you forget our positions. If you're willing, I'll take you away from here. Anywhere. I don't want to see you pretending not to like candied haws, and I certainly don't want to see you suffering in silence in this suffocating palace. I can protect you even if we leave. Gabriel's words made my heart tremble, but I knew with even greater clarity that I could not just leave with him. Don't be foolish. I could never go with you. How well do you think you know me? I may have wanted candied haws, but it was just a passing fancy. This palace may be stifling, but it protects me from being bullied. It even lets me command the winds and rain. What on earth makes you think I would go with you? General Pai, please conduct yourself with dignity. Think of the Pai family. My expression was cold, my tone tinged with disdain. Gabriel stood in the draft from the window, his eyes turning slightly red. My own heart was twisting in pain. I gritted my teeth and slammed the window shut. As if all my strength had been drained away, I slid to the floor and crouched there. Let it all end. Gabriel Pai should never have developed feelings for me. I thought after being rejected, a proud man like Gabriel would turn and leave without a second thought. But not long after, I heard the clash of swords outside. Panic seized me, and I scrambled back to the window. In the courtyard, 2 figures, one in imperial yellow and one in black, were locked in combat, evenly matched. The commotion was loud, and given Alexander's status, countless guards soon swarmed in to protect him. Gabriel was no match for so many. Alexander sent him flying with a kick. He landed hard, spitting out a mouthful of blood. With an icy face, Alexander pressed the sharp edge of his sword against Gabriel's throat. Such audacity, General Pai, trespassing in the Empress's chambers late at night, dressed like this and daring to raise a hand against me. What are your intentions? Gabriel's eyes were sharp as he gave a cold smile. Trespassing in the Empress's chambers? Your Highness, you are now the Emperor. The former emperor has passed. Shouldn't the former empress now be the Empress Dowager? Gabriel's deliberate words enraged Alexander. Furious, he ordered the guards to drag Gabriel away and throw him in prison. Seeing this, I immediately rushed forward and stood protectively in front of Gabriel. Everyone, stop. Alexander seemed stunned by my actions. His face was terribly grim. Charlotte, get out of the way. He's done nothing wrong. Why must you be so ruthless? If Alexander wanted to sit securely on the throne, Gabriel would be an excellent advisor. Moreover, there was still the connection of Lilian Pai between them. If he hurt Gabriel, it would be like cutting off one of his own arms. Seething, Alexander stared at me. Charlotte, are you sure you want to shield him with your own body? I met Alexander's gaze with unwavering determination. If you want to lay a hand on him, you might as well get rid of me too. Charlotte, before Gabriel could finish, I turned my head. Gabriel Pai, I've already made myself clear. Now get out of here. I knew that I still held a place in Alexander's heart, and now that I was pregnant, he wouldn't completely disregard my wishes. At this point, I asked for nothing more than for everything to return to a state of peace, especially since Gabriel was an innocent man. In the end, Gabriel left. But from the look in his eyes as he departed, I had a feeling he wouldn't give up so easily. Let me go. I'm begging you. I pleaded with Alexander, my voice verging on a sob. His anger exploded and he slammed his palm onto the nearby table, splitting the wood. You want to leave me for Gabriel Pai? This doesn't need to involve anyone else. I am the Empress Dowager now, your mother. If you insist on keeping me by your side, rumors will spread, the court will protest. What will be the point of everything you've worked so hard for? Enough. Alexander's voice dropped to a low growl. Since I was able to get this far, I am more than capable of protecting you. I don't care what anyone else says. But I care. I could no longer hold back my fury and shouted, I don't want my child to be born to whispers about their parentage, and I don't want to be imprisoned for a lifetime in this cage of a palace. The truth was, Alexander had never understood me. My personality was never suited for this palace, and in all these years I had never known a moment of true peace. Alexander fell silent. After a moment, he spoke again, his tone much softer, but his words sent my heart plummeting into an abyss. Don't even think about it. I am not letting you go. Just focus on a safe pregnancy. The Empress's enthronement ceremony is in 7 days. It will be a national celebration. Things did not go as smoothly as Alexander had planned. 2 days before the enthronement ceremony, rumors began to circulate. The former emperor is dead, and the Empress Dowager is pregnant, yet the new emperor wants to depose his wife and make the Dowager his new empress. The rumors spread like wildfire. The voices of opposition that Alexander had just managed to suppress in court rose up once again. I was the one who had deliberately spread those rumors. I thought Alexander would buckle under the pressure, or at least postpone the ceremony, but I never imagined he would override all objections and hold the ceremony as scheduled. Charlotte, this vast empire is in my hands. Now I share this prosperous world with you. Aren't you happy? Today, Alexander was dressed in magnificent red dragon robes, but his face wore a weariness he couldn't hide. Alexander, there's no point in asking what you already know, I said, my face cold. He didn't seem to mind my attitude, only offering a gentle smile. Just then, a soldier burst in. Report, a force of 400,000 cavalry is approaching the capital. Shock rippled through the hall. At that moment, Gabriel Pai, dressed in a simple white robe, walked in from outside. Beside him was Lilian Pai. The hall instantly fell silent. Alexander's face darkened. General Pai, what is the meaning of this? For the enthronement ceremony, the emperor casts aside his own wife to enthrone the former empress instead. Don't you think you owe our Pai family an explanation? Lilian had grown thinner since I'd last seen her. She stood quietly beside Gabriel, her gaze never once leaving Alexander. I took a few steps back, my heart filling with an immense guilt for Lilian. If I hadn't pushed them together back then, perhaps she wouldn't have fallen so deeply. Such a bright, cheerful woman had been reduced to this. An explanation? Alexander stood with his hands behind his back. He glanced at Lilian and said grimly, I have told you before, I will grant you anything you ask for except the position of Empress. Those words made Lilian's eyes redden. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. 400,000 foreign cavalry, General Pei. You have great abilities. I underestimated you. But do you think I am defenseless? The entire military force of the capital is more than capable of fighting you. Heh! The great general who once protected the Sky Empire now brings war to its capital? Although Gabriel was a man of high rank who once commanded 200,000 troops at the borderlands, that authority had been stripped from him before Alexander's ascension. No one had expected him to mobilize 400,000 troops from a neighboring country, let alone approach the capital so silently that not a single report had reached the city's defenses. Alexander's words were also a reminder to Gabriel. If a war truly broke out, both sides would suffer, and only the innocent common people would pay the price. Marrying Lillian to you was a poor judgment of character on my family's part. But today I must take the Empress Dowager with me, Gabriel said, each word ringing with conviction. When the court officials present heard that Gabriel only wanted to take me, they all began to speak at once. Your Majesty, you cannot allow the nation to fall into chaos for a single woman. We implore your Majesty to consider the greater good. One minister was even more direct. This enchantress bewitches the hearts of men. She cannot be allowed to stay, your Majesty. Alexander's face was like frost. It was impossible to know what he was thinking. His gaze fell on me, and as if it took all the strength he had, he said, "If you just say you want to stay, I can keep you here." His tone was almost a plea. Alexander had always been high and mighty, looking down on the world. He had never been like this before. I didn't answer him. Instead, my gaze shifted to Gabriel Pei, fixing on the rice stalk emblem on his sword. Was it worth it? I asked softly. Gabriel Pei looked at me, his gaze unwavering. For you, it was worth everything. Suddenly, I was 6 years old again, starving and freezing in the bitter cold of winter. I remembered strong hands lifting my nearly unconscious body. I had been too weak to see who held me in that warm embrace. I only knew that in the moment before I fainted, I had burned the pattern on the man's sword into my memory. It was a perfect match for the emblem on Gabriel Pei's sword. Just then, a powerful hand gripped mine. Alexander Rong yanked me toward him, his furious face inches from mine. Charlotte Feng, after everything I did to keep you, you think I'll let you go now? You will stay by my side. His words were absurd. Alexander Rong, I said calmly, you were the one who pushed me away. Now you claim you want to keep me? Don't you find that laughable? For you, supreme power is all that has ever mattered. No. Admit it. We were doomed from the start. I never cared about being the mother of the nation. At this point, I no longer had the energy to argue with him. I just wanted to escape this suffocating palace. Don't even think about it. You will never leave my side in this lifetime. Alexander Rong was frantic, more out of control than I had ever seen him. Gabriel Pei stepped forward, shielding me behind him. He spoke in a low, serious voice. With my 400,000 troops at the border, what power do you have left to keep her? Shut up! Alexander glared at Gabriel Pei, his eyes bloodshot. He pulled the sword from a nearby guard's sheath and lunged. The court officials scattered as the two men fought. They were evenly matched at first, but Alexander, dressed in his wedding robes and emotionally distraught, was soon overcome. After 10 moves, Gabriel's longsword was pressed against his neck. Alexander Rong had never won the people's hearts. The hall erupted, the loyalties of the officials shifting with the tide. The new emperor is a tyrant. Forcibly marrying the former empress is an offense against the heavens. How could the emperor of our great Sky Empire do something so foolish for a woman? He is unfit to sit on this throne. In an instant, the court turned, their voices rising to support Gabriel Pei as the new emperor. But at that moment, Gabriel Pei threw his sword to the ground. He ignored the clamor, showing no interest whatsoever in the throne. He looked at me, his eyes full of tenderness, and held out his hand. Charlotte, let me take you away from here. Let me protect you. Will you come with me? Tears streamed down my face. So long ago, a young boy had reached out his hand to a little girl, promising to protect her for the rest of his life. So it was him. He was the one who had saved me back then. No one could have predicted what happened next. As if possessed, Alexander Rong snatched the sword from the ground and lunged at Gabriel Pei. By the time anyone reacted, it was too late to stop him. My mind went blank. Acting on pure instinct, I threw myself in front of Gabriel. By the time Alexander realized what I had done and tried to pull back, it was too late. His face froze in a mask of shocked despair. "Charlotte! Charlotte!" Gabriel Pay's anguished cry echoed through the great hall. The sharp blade pierced my body, and a searing pain shot through me. The hall descended into chaos, but as I lost consciousness, I felt a sense of relief I had never known before. In the 22nd year of the Sky Empire, the former emperor passed away and a new emperor ascended the throne. In the same year, Gabriel Pay's rebellion officially failed. The new emperor, mindful of their past connection, did not punish him, and the crown princess, Lillian Pay, was made empress. Shortly after, the empress dowager passed away. In a quiet town, in a small courtyard, I sat by the window, lost in thought as I watched the winter sweet blooming outside. What a strange thing love is. After everything that had happened, Lillian still insisted on staying by Alexander's side. Lost in my thoughts, I felt a sudden warmth as a thick coat was draped over my shoulders. I turned my head. Gabriel Pay was looking at me with a gentle smile, one hand held behind his back as he closed the window with the other. "What are you doing sitting in a draft on such a cold day? Are you trying to catch a chill?" I smiled faintly. These days, they just don't feel entirely real. The day I left with Gabriel, I was so severely injured that I lost the child I was carrying. And with that loss, my last tie to Alexander Rom was finally severed. The imperial physicians had all said I'd lost too much blood, that my life was fading. Only Gabriel Pay refused to give up. He found a renowned doctor who, against all odds, managed to save me. Under his meticulous care, my health slowly began to improve. He brought me to this small town, the very place we first met. It was only then that I learned he was the one who had saved me more than 10 years ago. He was the one who had saved me. It was a cruel twist of fate that I was later taken to the Crown Prince's residence and into Alexander Rom's life. Lost and adrift, I had mistaken him for my only salvation. After all the twists and turns, it seemed fate had played a terrible joke on me. As if performing a magic trick, Gabriel Pay produced 2 skewers of candied hawthorns and held them in front of me. "Charlotte, your favorite. Have a taste. See if this sweet and sour flavor can make things feel a little more real." I smiled, took one of the skewers, and bit into a berry. Sweet and sour. It did feel a little more real. I murmured. But it was still missing something. Gabriel looked at me, his gaze full of tenderness. He slowly pulled me into his embrace and whispered, "How about now? Charlotte, I'm here. I'll always be with you. Does this feel real?" His voice was incredibly gentle. My eyes began to well with tears and I slowly wrapped my arms around his strong waist. With his arms around me, the world felt real once more. Yes, he's here. He will always be with me. Through life and death, never leaving, never abandoning. Yes, thank you, Gabriel. Silently, in my heart, I said goodbye to the past. Just then, his pleasant voice sounded by my ear, firm and resonant. "Charlotte, whenever you're ready to marry, you have only to tell me. I will marry you." Fresh tears welled in my eyes at his promise. Words were unnecessary. I could only hold him tighter. "Okay, I will."